My immediate left is Peter Carlin, who's the Vice President of Earth Water Global. He was previously a consultant at the Boston Consulting Group and has also been Director of Development at Street Squash, where he raised $10 million for a youth center in Harlem. Is that correct? Yep. And is also on the board of Insight, which is a fellowship for entrepreneurship. Get right is Mr. Babar Kabir. There is a misspelling of his name. Kabir, if you want to reach him thereafter. He is the director of the WASH program, that stands for Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene, as well as the Disaster, Environment, and Climate Change program at BROC, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with. Previously, he worked at the World Bank as well as at the United Nations and in the private sector, so also very well-rounded experience. Experience is as holistic as his organization's mission statement. He is the executive director of the Gaia Institute and was formerly the chair of the Solid Waste Advisory Board in the Bronx, among many other positions. He has a PhD in biology and a BA in philosophy, so I find that combination quite striking. Just briefly, a few of my own comments. I was listening to the panels earlier and noted that the participants had as much to say as the panelists. It feels like there's been a maturity in the dialogue around some of these issues, that people have a lot of the information and are now thinking about some of the points where we still have some progress to make. Notably, a young woman mentioned empowering communities to actually access these resources. I think anyone who follows the news and sees the recurrence with which violent conflicts tend to emerge over water scarcity, one might think, well, where are these organizations before these conflicts erupt, or how can these communities gain that access so they don't have to resort to such means? Somebody else mentioned establishing a database so that all of the excellent information that has been made available and all of the efforts that have been made by the various organizations here could be consolidated and easily accessible in one place. So those seem like promising directions going forward, but there are also other areas where clearly progress has been made. And I just want to underline the notion of filling gaps, one organization not trying to do it all itself. I think we heard that coming from Oxfam, we heard that coming from Partners in Health. It's also evident in the missions of the three organizations represented on this panel, but I'll let them address that themselves. So perhaps, I don't know if there's a specific order, maybe Mr. Kabir, if you'd like to begin. I think you have a PowerPoint presentation, and if that's up and running.
Good afternoon, or it's probably evening, I think. Yeah, it's more evening. I'll be going pretty rapidly through the slides because when I prepared it, it was global actions on water and health, and I was trying to look at these linkages. So there's a lot of materials that's already been gone through. But just let me take about, I don't know how many minutes I have, about 12, 15 minutes, I hope. I don't know. So I'll take about 2-3 minutes to introduce my organization, in case people don't know. We are probably, staff-wise, the world's largest NGO, and the first international southern NGO. All the NGOs that have been speaking here have been northern NGOs. We are the first international southern NGO. We are working, apart from Bangladesh, in many countries, in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka in South Asia, Bandar Aceh in East Timor. We are working in Southern Sudan, Uganda, Tanzania, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. And unfortunately, we hadn't expected to start off in Haiti with a post-disaster situation. The countries that you see is basically, except for Sri Lanka, which is post-tsunami, but the others are most post-conflict areas that we work in. And we are doing Good. I think we have over 120,000 staff in Bangladesh only, and we are the largest NGO in Afghanistan now. One of the differences that we make in our approach is, while microfinance is a strong pillar, we have education and health backing it up. So when we enter a country, we don't just go in with microfinance, we go in with microfinance, health, education, and then backed up with all these other, what we call supporting programs. That said and done, and just to impress you all, our annual operating budget in Bangladesh is about $600 million US. 80% is self-generated, 20% is donor-dependent. So that's just, we have social businesses, we have commercial enterprises, we have investments. So through that, we generate our own income. So in most cases, we move in with our own funds and then seek reimbursements or assistance from our friends. The background is something that's already been talked about, how many people have access to water, why is it so important. While it's a source of life, it also has its risks and its contamination. As I go deeper into the presentation, I'll be speaking on that. This is something pretty well known. Safe water will save lives, contaminated water will kill. And apart from the physical effects of contaminated water, we also have some social effects, and we'll be getting into that also. This is something that I think in the first panel we heard a lot about how many % of water is fresh, how much is saline, etc. And so I won't really be talking about that. I think demand for and use of fresh water has tripled and will keep on doing. From what I understand is about in 2025, 40% more of the present water use will be required by cities and 20% more for crops. BRAC also has a very large agricultural program, and we are trying to also see how we can rationalize water. Somebody did talk about virtual water. We talk about embedded water because that's also one source of how we export water free of cost to countries that take our agricultural products without realizing how much we're doing it. 41% of the world's population, 2.3 billion, live in river basins which are under water stress. So means that per capita water supply is less than 1.7 meter cube per year. Water and health, trying to link it up slightly, that you have pollution, you have sources of water. Water then goes into food hygiene and water itself basically, which again then interacts with health. It has direct impact. Earlier speakers have mentioned about how waterborne diseases, what percentage of the deaths or mortalities, morbidities are linked up to it. And this is a picture that I inserted. I mean, lots of pictures were there. This is after Sidor. I think the representative from the American Red Cross, New York branch or chapter, did mention about it. In the southern Bangladesh, where this was a super cyclone, 262 kilometers per hour, sustained speed. For those who are familiar with disasters, this struck southern Bangladesh. The early warning system worked here. Loss of lives was minimal. Because of salinity, the people are dependent on surface water bodies that are ponds basically. And this was taken by me, I think, the second day. It struck on the 15th night of the 15th of November 2007. I was there on the 17th morning already, in charge of trying to see what we could do on an emergency basis and on restoring water. And when you look at these pictures, then you start realizing is you've got a handful. And people don't have shelter, people don't have food. So while they're scrambling for food, there's no physical bodies available to clean up these water ponds. There are people who died, and there's no burial system because everything was underwater or had already been damaged. This is a picture I've taken from the urban area where we have a massive diarrhea problem. There's something called the International Center for Diarrheal Diseases Research Bangladesh, ICDDRB, previously known as the Cholera Hospital. Under Seattle. I mean, you still have the NATO. Seattle has been disbanded, but during the Seattle times, this was the Center for Cholera Research. This has the largest outdoor facility